Hello everybody, I'm Jihang from Sangmyeong University, Seoul campus in South Korea. In this talk, we will discuss the role of human intelligence in the design of agents. As you reckoned, the decision-making architecture was truly inspired from the findings in cognitive psychology and neuroscience. In short, human intelligence. Therefore, we here would like to see more on the human intelligence in order to design more intelligent agents. Yes, we have seen many brilliant achievements of AI, such as AlphaGo, AlphaFold, and so on. These achievements highlight the superhuman performance of AI. However, humans have more exceptional abilities than AI. Here is a good example. The game called Frostbite needs more flexible decision-making with planning capacity. Let's see the flaws showing the comparison between humans and latest AI performance. Can you guess who wins in this result? Yes, of course, we are a human being. Just a couple of hours play earned a very high score. What about AI? They will need over 900 hours play to meet the score a human achieved. Then, what does bring about this big difference between AI and human beings? Let's have a look right away. This is a summarized diagram of cognitive process during human decision-making. In the environment, we usually perceive something by our sensory systems, such as our eyes. Our intelligence identifies what using the pattern recognition technique when we perceive something. If it is identified using previously constructed in our cognitive structure, it is then involved in reasoning process with information in the memory. Otherwise, the process puts more cognitive capacity to identify the percept. After identifying, the percept will be a part of cognitive structure that will be used for the cognitive process in the future. These cognitive structures play a crucial role in implementing behavior. Right. Following the brief illustration of cognitive process, we are now ready to do decision-making on what to do next. The question is, what is good decision-making on this occasion? Of course, there are many subjective values to define the good decision-making. However, one classical, widely accepted theory is Bellman's principle of optimality, described here. According to this principle, good decision-making is finding a policy to be able to maximize the reward in the current environment. What is mandatory in here? We have to consider the reward itself first, but also think about how this environment changes when we do some actions. That is the second row here. So the optimal decision making is actually the way to find how to achieve this goal with a maximization of the reward. So this is kind of expectation when we achieve this goal. And the expectation is actually product of probability and the reward. So we need to know how this environment changed when I take an action and what is the expected reward as a consequence of that action. This example is how human RL is implemented in our brain. Indeed, the Bellman's equation is very nicely illustrating as we saw previously. Imagine we do the tic-tac-toe game with a colleague. We think about the policy learned from many experiences in the past that can maximize the reward by winning the game. In addition, we also consider changes of environment. It means the opponent policy here. When they responded to me in a different way that I expected, we do more deliberation to win the game, such as this one. So, both of them, the model-free and the model-based, are essentially required to maximize the reward as stated in the equation. Regarding this, there are many neural evidences in this neuroscience. I think you probably heard about the dopamine. According to the Schultz, it encodes the value signal in the monkey brain, which is strongly correlated with the reward we expect to receive. This is also found in the human brain. Interestingly, there are two types of value signals, a reward prediction error and a state prediction error in the human brain. Let's remind the previous slide. We talked about the two types of behavior. One is reward-driven, called model-free, and the other is state transition probability-driven, called model-based behavior. You probably remember successfully the tic-tac-toe games. There are two types of policies to win the game. The first one is just doing something by past experience. The other thing is do more deliberation, thinking more about opponent policy to win this game. Actually, the reward prediction error is related to the model-free and state prediction error is related to model-based behavior control, as we saw in this slide. In the previous slide, we talked about two types of behavior, model-based and model-free. Actually, reward prediction error is related to model-free and state prediction error is related to model-based behavior control. As Bellman's equation addressed, our brain also uses the both to make a good decision. By computing the reliability of each, how well each system performs in the prediction of each value, in other words, a human brain integrates two values into one, then carries out the decision-making. You could probably remember the rationality. We mentioned that it is union of proactiveness and reactivity. Can you recognize it with this slide? Yes, we every day, every time pursue the rationality in our decision-making with the interplay of model-based and model-free system, which represent proactiveness and reactivity, respectively. The marvelous thing is a prefrontal meta-control in our brain. Depending upon the situations, it dynamically performs the arbitration control between model-based and model-free, which is successfully able to implement the rational and good decision-making. This allows us to do better decision-making. For example, if the situation requires speed one, meta-control prefers the model-free, implementing the reactivity. If more careful and deliberative decision is required, then model-based is preferred in order to improve the performance. Taken together, we can behave adaptively depending on the environmental context. Imagine that if AI has this ability, I think it can show a remarkable advances in many applications further.